We got new plugs. Welcome back to a double moto. Alright fam, this thing made me nervous, bro. It was like shaking. It was doing all kinds of things. And it's not that I didn't trust my tie down job. It's just this thing is held on. It's literally held on by that one bolt right in the middle. I don't know if you guys see that. Right in there. But it made it. I don't know if the SUV is sagging. Oh yeah, it definitely is. I gotta do something to that rear suspension, but it held. It held, surprisingly. All right, let's get this off. Okay, so the duck is not starting, but that's because the battery is dead. Everything is done on this bike. The belts, the plugs, the oil, the coolant hoses. It's good to go. It's good to ride. I've already test rode it. It rides really good. I just got to charge the battery, and I wanted to give you guys an update, but I can't today. Yeah, we'll charge the battery and then start her up. A couple of you guys been asking me to do an update on this bike, so here it is. Here's the update. What's going on right now is nothing. This bike is good to go. It does have that typical Ducati cold start. It takes forever to get it going, but first try every time so far. Shoot, let's see how many miles. 825 miles. That's how much we got right there. Alright, so one of the main reasons I love this bike so much is because of the dry clutch. There's not a lot of bikes that come with a dry clutch anymore. Actually, maybe just the V4R, but the 848, no, I take that back. The 1098 and 1198 were known for the dry clutch. If you get the 848, you're not gonna have a dry clutch. So you have to get the 1098 or 1198 to get the dry clutch. I mean, it's beautiful. Look at this. It just kind of, it's sticking out. You got the clutch out. It just, that's what it was known for, and I love it. I love that fact that it comes with a dry clutch. This bike, 1198, 1098. So another good reason to get this bike right now is because the prices haven't really gone up. They've kind of stayed pretty mellow, but I think once Ducati goes all electric, these are probably going to go up in value. Some of the older ones, like the 7.4s or the 916s, they might probably go up too, but those are a little bit harder to find. These you could still find, and for a decent price. In my opinion, I have a feeling that these are just going to go up in value, but I don't know. These are not like cars where there's much nostalgia in them, because not a lot of people had these these bikes back then, so who knows, but it does hold its value pretty well. I could still get my money back, or actually make money on this bike right now if I put it up for sale. So alright, so another great reason to pick up this bike, specifically the 1098 and 1198s, is because this is the last trellis frame, that steel tube trellis frame that Ducati made for their Superbikes. When they went to the Panigale, they went to the motor as a frame, and then they just added like some subframes to the motor, and there's no longer a frame in the Panigales, but this is the last true steel trellis This is the last steel trellis frame from Ducati. Okay, besides this specific one, the 1198S actually came with traction control. There's not a lot of electronics on this bike, minus this one. Does that make sense? 1198S came out with traction control, and that's about as far as electronics gets. I think it has some kind of data logger, but Again, there's no real interference between the computer, the ECU, and the bike. Your traction control on most of these bikes is in the wrist, and I would argue that even this, the traction control is not as intrusive as other bikes in this genre today. BMW S1000RR, V4S, all of them, even the CBR 1000RR now has a ton of electronics in it. Even like Olin suspension, it's very hard to get in manual now. The RSV4 factory, the 2021, now has electronic Olin suspension. This still has the manual Olin suspension. You can't really get any more analog than these bikes right here, but specifically this has a ton of torque. I've actually high-sided ones on my old 1098S. Just because of that torque, man. That torque is insane on these, and if you're not careful, this will throw you off. But the feeling, the enjoyment that you get from that torque and little electronic intervention, if any, it's insane. It's not like any other ride that you've ever ridden before. It's fucking awesome, man. You gotta get it. You gotta get one of these. Alright, another reason why you should get this bike. Insurance is probably really cheap on this. I know I pay very little for this insurance. Even my first 1098S, I paid like 50 bucks for full coverage insurance, and that's because it's old. It's old. This is a 2009. Yeah, it's not that old. You like considering, you know, 12 years, but I'd imagine there's not a lot of these out being crashed right now, so that's probably part of the reason that insurance is so cheap on these. And you know, for like 180 horsepower, holy cannoli, this bike's got some balls. Leads me to another reason why you should get this bike, man. It's a raw machine. It's got so much freaking power. It's a Ducati. It's classic looking. It was ahead of its time, and even now it's kind of like a timeless motorcycle. In my opinion, one of Ducati's best works of art. I mean, look at it. It's freaking beautiful, man. And yeah, it's not comfortable to daily ride. The mirrors are pretty useless. It gets hot. It's a big twin. There's not a lot of parts that you can buy for it. The aftermarket is probably, you know, disappearing. If you crash it, you can't go buy OEM fairings anymore. It's not one of those bikes that you go and daily ride all the time, although I'm gonna be trying to ride this thing as much as possible. It's a beautiful motorcycle. I mean, even like, look at this. Look at the, you guys seeing that? Even the underslung caliper. Again, a bike that's ahead of its time. This thing handles in the track, in the canyons, like a modern CBR or S1000RR or V4S. I would argue that this bike can still keep up with the best of them. Alright, so with all that said, I'm gonna take the bike back to the garage. 825 miles. I'm gonna add a couple more miles here this season and probably next season. It's cold here in the Pacific Northwest now, so I'm gonna try to get out and ride as much as possible. I appreciate you guys for sticking around. Got more videos coming up, I promise. Got a lot of cool things in the works. Anyway,